All right, take two. I don't know what was going on with my connection there. So like I was saying, I've been really feeling this Saturn station. Whoa, what's going on with my hair? Rookie move. I didn't even look in the mirror before I did that. Anyways, yeah, really been feeling the Saturn station, and wanted to check in with you guys, talk a little bit about that, tell you guys about the course that I just launched. Hey guys. And then we're going to get into a deeper discussion slash tangent slash rant about kind of a controversial topic, or maybe it just is to me because I have a Libra moon and I never want to offend anybody, but whatever. We're going to talk about the ethics of astrology. We're going to talk about skeptics of astrology. We're going to talk about pop astrology and evolutionary astrology and the difference between. So if that interests you, stick around. First things first, I just launched the Astrology for 2024 Year of the Dragon webinar, part 2. Literally the most comprehensive course I have ever done. I worked extremely hard. I literally combed every single day and week between now and December. Anything worth knowing about in the astrology for the next 6 months is in that report. It is free with monthly membership. For those of you that don't know, I launched a monthly membership about a month ago, and it is a community space that we are creating over there. We have a forum where you can go on and meet other astrologers, post your chart, ask questions. We have a weekly forecast running. We have Nick's Tarot Corner where we dive into tarot. Nick Xavier, he's a good friend of mine and he's doing the tarot over there. So we are learning and growing together. I'm going to start doing live streams over there as well to kind of support that community aspect. So check it out. Otherwise, it's $45 on my website, coyotestarastrology.com. Comes with a whole freaking list that you can print out, put on your fridge, whatever. So there's that. And just real quick, just to get a feeling for how this Saturn station is being experienced by you guys out there. How are you guys feeling it? What's going on? How are you guys feeling Saturn going retrograde? Often when a planet stations and changes directions, we feel that planet more. Saturn is not my favorite stationing energy because we feel Saturn more. And Saturn is just dense, you know? I mean, I suppose if you have a lot of Capricorn and you're an earthy person in general, you might enjoy those energies. I don't particularly. It's, you know, where Saturn is transiting in your chart is where you are having to put in the most work and discipline. And it governs the 3D. It's not like the fun, imaginary, escapist worlds. It's really the bare bones of life, like the shit we really have to get in order, and it can often feel like homework, and it can feel like criticism because Saturn often shows us where we need to level up, where we need to do better, where we need to grow up. So pay attention to what's coming up for you right now, because wherever you're being shown need for improvement, it's good to listen to that, because then you can spend the whole retrograde like figuring out what you need to do to make that part of life run more efficiently. And then when Saturn goes direct in November, you'll see like more or less the fruits of your labor. And we really never want to ignore Saturn. It never really goes well. If we ignore Saturn later on, every time Saturn makes aspect to that chart, we just see the consequences of not listening to what he had to say. So it's really good to listen to what he is showing us. Okay. Moon Wisdom is saying, I'm feeling crushed and not in a good way. I'm sorry, love. Um, yeah, it sounds like people are definitely feeling it. Yeah, it's not the funnest energy, but the more you understand what it is, the easier it gets. Like in my case, perfect example. I'm in my Saturn square Saturn year, which is like a mini Saturn return. It's fucking not that chill, to be honest. Like everything emotionally in my life is fine, but it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. And so like, for example, I launched this monthly membership. It's a huge turning point in my career. I'm leveling up and I'm getting to a point where I can offer more as I expand, but there's a lot that comes with that I've never done before. And so there's been like some mistakes here and there. There's been just a lot of work as I don't want to pull back too much on my other platforms, but then I'm providing more content for my monthly members, and they're kind of the priority right now, you know? And so it's like how to navigate all of this extra stuff, feeling like I'm really tied to my phone recently because I'm working a lot, which is not my favorite. So time management, figuring this kind of stuff out. So that's an example, hey Laura, of a Saturn moment in life. And we're all in a Saturn moment in life in this moment in time because we're all together experiencing a Saturn station. I'm glad Laura's here for this little part. Laura, we're gonna dive into the ethics of astrology and practicing astrology with integrity. So yeah, this has been coming into my awareness. It's not that this is new. I mean, I've always been really focused on preserving the integrity of astrology, or preserving integrity in general within myself. But recently it's been re-inspired within me, and I've been meditating on how to bring this topic into the space, meaning my social media space, more. Part of this has been because, and this is something that is being talked about in astrology circles, but I think probably also everywhere, is like the algorithms on social media have changed drastically in the last few years. It's really hard to get engagement. This is by no means on accident. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I think that a lot of it has to do with getting us more tied to our phones. And, you know, this is a way a lot of us make a living, and there's been talk, you know, behind closed doors with other astrologers of like, man, what do we do? This is really hard. Like, my content hasn't changed, but I'm getting less views. And, you know, there can be, I want to be careful here. It can be tempting to change your content to try to get more views. And honestly, like, I don't blame anybody. I mean, in one sense, you kind of have to. You have to adapt to survive, right? But, like, I see that there is pop astrology, clickbait astrology that really thrives. And then the deeper, like, EA, evolutionary astrology, topics of astrology that are not getting views and are not getting the support that they deserve. And this sucks for the astrologer, but honestly, it just sucks for the astrology community more than anything, because what it does is it enhances and just further spreads what I like to call pop astrology, right? Which is the reason that a lot of people think astrology is bullshit anyway, because that's what we were mostly raised with. That's what most of us know of astrology. I mean, I remember my first exposure to astrology was like those little tiny horoscopes in the newspaper that would be posted on the counter of the local coffee shop, which are literally pretty much always wrong. And, you know, that was pretty much it. Or in your local paper or whatever, just like those little sun sign blurbs. And yeah, it's tough, because I think part of my mission, I have a lot of passions in my life. Astrology is a big one. Mediumship is another one. Animal activism is another one. But I think for me to be able to leave this planet feeling like I did what I came to do, the main priority that I have is helping bridge the gap between what astrology actually is and what people think it is. If I can do that, and I can do it well, and I can make some kind of a dent in the collective, I can leave this body and transition and go wherever the fuck I'm gonna go next and feel like it was a mission accomplished. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. Basically, Saturn square Saturn year, I'm thinking about my life and my legacy and the time that I have left, and I'm like, this is the Saturn square Saturn moment, I'm like, am I on track? Am I making use of time, chronos, with what I do? And so I am feeling re-inspired to revisit this topic, and aside from this live stream, the way that I want to start to talk about this and bring this into this space is to start to do podcasts and interviews with astrologers that I feel are in alignment with this stream of thought. These are astrologers that are deeply passionate about the craft, who are protective of the craft, who are doing it for the right reasons, and who understand the responsibility that we have in this community as astrologers, which really is that we are teachers. That's really what it comes down to. An astrologer is somebody who has learned a language that most people don't understand. Astrology is a language. We've learned it, and then our job is to interpret it and then translate it so other people know what the fuck it is. That's what we do. We're translators, really. And it's not an easy job. This is another thing. There's so many roads I could go with this. Astrologers in the chat are going to be like, fuck yes, when I say this, like, we can only actually articulate like fucking like 20% of what we see in a chart. I mean, like, the whole thing is an activation of symbols and stories, and you've got to pick one track with your client to go down when you could literally talk for the rest of eternity about their chart. I mean, it is eternity. It's their soul, you know? So it's like, and then when you're doing a forecast, let's talk about that for a fucking second. These fucking forecasts that I put out, like, a forecast is a general astrology chart, or astrology reading. So the first thing I have to do is I have to get the fuck out of my own story and what's going on in my life. Because if I'm telling you guys about the astrology through my lens of what's going on in my life, it's not going to be accurate. This is incredibly hard to do. Like, just think about that for a second. You know, it's like when I was going through like the gnarliest breakup of all time, and my dog died, and I was literally, like, my life was literally imploding. Every time I came on or I went to type up a fucking report, I had to be like, Alex, it's not about you right now. Like, get the fuck out of that story and look at the chart and feel into the collective, you know, and hopefully I did a good job. Some days I wasn't sure, you know, it's like, it's really hard. That's another reason why I'm completely sober, other than substances that I feel enhance my psychic and spiritual attunement, aka the plants. But, you know, cut out tobacco, cut out alcohol, have totally readjusted my relationship with caffeine. Why? Because they are distortions. They distort my lens, you know. If you're drinking and hungover, like, how on point is your tarot reading or your astrology reading really going to be? Because you're inflamed, your brain is literally inflamed, let's not go into it, you get it, right? You're not going to be giving a clear review. Then, once you've done that, then you have to take into account how a general report is going to be impacting different people based on their chart. And that's why I say it a million times, you have to know your chart to benefit from astrology. If you're coming just to listen to a general report, there's going to be times when it's spot on for you, but then there's going to be times where it's not at all, because you may have a strong placement that is completely going the opposite direction of what the general report is doing, right? So, let's talk for a minute about skeptics. First of all, I love skeptics. I have no problem with them. I was one at one point. A skeptic is somebody who does not accept the general consensus, does not accept information that's being given to them, and they want to figure it out for themselves. I have deep respect for that. I am the same way. Astrology had to prove itself to me, and it did so over a number of not months, but years. So that's not the issue. I welcome skeptics. I taught a retreat in Bali, and I had an amazing student who came with his partner, and she was very into astrology. It was all new to him. And in my first lecture, he rose his hand. He was in the front row, and he was like, I got to be honest, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of like, I don't really know about this stuff. Like, I'm here because she wants, but like, but you know what? He was in the front row. He had his fucking notebook, and he was like really open. He ended up coming to every class. We just did our first one-on-one reading like last week, and he really, really enjoyed it. And I highly doubt it will be our last. I love that. That's my favorite. I love when somebody is like, doesn't understand it or isn't quite sure, and then we're able to bring that to them. That feels so good for my soul, and I love that. But then you have this other individual, and this is this is the drama. No. So yes. Okay, so it actually happened. When was that? It's last week. So I went shopping for a car. This happens like literally all the time though. But yeah, last week. Shopping for a car and walking through the car lot with the car salesman. This was during the Mercury and Gemini square Neptune squares. Car salesmen are so Mercury and Gemini square Neptune, just saying. Anyways, so we're walking through the car lot, and the guy's just making small talk. And he's like, so what do you do for a living? And like out there in the matrix, like honestly, 9 times out of 10 these days, I'll just say consulting. Because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get the looks. It's either like the glazed over like stare, or they ask if I work for NASA, bless their souls. But this particular guy, for whatever fucking reason, I told the truth, and I was like, I'm an astrologer. And this is what I find interesting about it, is he proceeded to honestly just be like straight the fuck up rude, in the sense that he made it very obvious that he does not believe in astrology. He thinks it's bullshit. And here's the thing. That is actually what it is. That's his opinion. That's fine. But let me put this on the table for everybody's consideration right now. In like what other career that you can think of, is it socially acceptable to say something like that to somebody? With the exception of maybe like sex work. Oh wait, right? Like here I am. I have literally studied this for over a decade. Work full-time, study literally fucking constantly. I'm out there trying to help people. And here's this guy, and he is not outside the norm, who finds it socially acceptable to say that to me and to treat me that way. Now, whatever, fuck him. I don't like, whatever. It's fine. God bless his journey. I hope he figures it out. But here's why I'm bringing it up, is what it illuminates for us all is very fascinating. Truly. Which is that there is a deep unspoken beef with astrology. Still. There is beef. NPCs. Totally. There is beef. There is subtle beef, and it even runs in the astrology community. That's like the funny part. And this is where I see it happen then. You guys know when I post those polls in my my stories where I do it every so often, where I'm like, how are you guys feeling the energies? Or like, I'll be like, the energy's crazy today. Like, are you feeling it? There are the same couple of people. They're literally the same people. They've been doing it for like 5 years. I don't even know. Who will always say no. Or they will write in the thing like, I feel nothing. Now, I've never responded to them, by the way. I'm not going to waste my time. Like, they know who they are. It's whatever. But it's this subtle defiance of like, I will not be affected by the cosmos. The elements have no effect on me whatsoever. And there's this subtle beef, like they're upset with me for suggesting that they might be part of what we're all experiencing. Now, again, this can be happening for a number of reasons. Maybe they literally don't feel what I'm talking about. And again, for reasons I mentioned earlier, maybe because of their chart, they're not. That's fine. If that's them, I'm not talking about you. I think what I pick up on, though, is that they have a beef with it. And here's my point. I'm going to finally get to the fucking point. If they feel triggered by astrology and they feel like I am in any way saying that I know who they are better than they do, that astrology controls them and is this like oppressive force that like, you know, rules over them, has dominion over them, whatever, they just don't understand what astrology is. That's my point. And that is my mission, is that I want to heal that so that they can experience the elevation and the joy that astrology is here to provide. It's so sad to me, and I don't mean that in a condescending, patronizing way, that they don't understand that. And I understand why they don't. Because astrology has been demonized and villainized for hundreds of years, right? The witch hunts. We know that happened. There is fucking trauma in the collective around this, okay? Deep trauma. People were hunted down and slaughtered and tortured for this stuff, you guys. When I teach, and if you've been to one of my lectures recently, you know this. At the beginning of my lecture, I light a candle. I do this in my webinars too. And I light a candle for the lives that have been lost for trying to carry this information forward. I take it very seriously. I do that at the beginning of my lecture to remind myself how lucky I am to do this work and to be able to, at least at this time, it could always change, talk about this, and not be killed, you know? I might be shadow banned, but like, you know, I'm doing okay. So, I think that those were my main points. Hi, Summer. Oh my God, yay! You're so perfectly aligned. So you are actually something that I was gonna mention. So I wanted to bring some positivity to this. So we have the skeptic. And once again, I'm not here to convince a skeptic that astrology is real. That's between them and God. I honestly don't really care that much. Respectfully, read a book. It's like you have to do the work. You have to read a book just like I did. We all have to do this. Like I can't break down astrology in bite-sized pieces and cover it with like frosting and feed it to you. Like you have to do the work. You have to go on the journey for astrology to open itself up to you. And if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. And like, great, you know, but just have respect for what I do. That's all I ask. And know that I work really hard, whether or not you believe it or not. Where was I going with this? Okay, so there's a skeptic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then I want to talk about when I see the person that astrology is for. And my best friend Summer, who is in this chat, literally the most magical being ever, she is one of these people, and she reminded me of this morning, as she often does. The person that astrology is for, and a person that is having a healthy relationship with astrology, is going to react to it this way. This morning, I received a text from Summer, or a voice note, and it was like, very excited, right? And she's like, oh my God, today I had this realization, something unlocked for me. And she's talking about her chart, and she's pinging ideas off of her planets, and she's having breakthroughs. This happens. If you have a relationship with astrology, this will be happening all day, every day. You will start to think in the language, and you will be unlocking and activating aspects of your soul. And this is what astrology does. It doesn't tell you who you are like some oppressive government force, which is part of the trauma and part of why people don't like it, because they're so used to that. Astrology gives you the freedom to figure it out for yourself by giving you a blueprint to objectively look at and then ask your soul questions. Objective questions that help you explore yourself outside of your ego. I will give you an example, a vulnerable example. Okay, this has been happening a lot recently. I right now am going through the transit, Saturn trine my Mercury. Little background on my Mercury placement. My Mercury is in Scorpio, conjunct Pluto in the 8th house. Literally couldn't be more Scorpio if it tried. It is, unfortunately, in conjunct my ascendant. My ascendant is in Aries. Thankfully, it's also trine my Jupiter in Pisces in the 12th house, but that's another story. It is in conjunct my ascendant in Aries. That means that my Mercury, we'll just make it simple, my Mercury is aggravating and irritating and slightly at odds with my Aries energy. When you get that much Scorpio, mixing poorly with a lot of Aries placements, strong Aries, I have an Aries North node, what do you get? Sharp, cutting intensity. This often comes through in the way that I communicate when I'm not careful, Mercury. And there are places in my life that this stems from. We'll get into that right now. That's the healing work that astrology has unlocked for me. But anyways, Saturn is transiting my Mercury, has been for the year. Saturn is about growth and maturity. So I have been learning very big Saturnian lessons over the last few months about how sometimes, not always, I can come off as aggressive or sharp in the way that I speak. It's not something that I was really aware of before, because there are certain family members in my line that speak the way I do, spoke that way to me. It's what I'm used to. We become numb to ourselves, right? Like, you're just in your fucking head seeing life through your story. Like, you don't know that you're being fucking annoying until somebody is either nice enough to tell you in a way that, you know, you can understand, or you have astrology to go, bitch, look at your fucking Mercury. And I had a couple situations over the last couple of months / lifetime where I was like, I'm getting this reflection again. This might be something I need to look at and work on within myself. Again, that's my choice. I could just decide to be, you know, defiant and be like, whatever, it's their fucking problem. I like my Mercury, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, you could do that. But I would like to see my Mercury express itself in the best possible way because it's a very, very strong placement. And that's also where my psychic abilities live. So I know using astrology that if I heal and I work on the shadow and the low density of my Mercury and Scorpio, that I will lift it into the celestial mansions of its best possible expression. That's what I want to do. And I'm using my chart to do that. So this is an example of how we can approach our chart as a infinite wellspring of possibilities to do deep, often uncomfortable soul work. Astrology is not here to make your life easier. Like, I think that's another misconception. I think that people, I get this a lot, and I'm not calling anyone out, but I do get this one a lot. It's like, when is it gonna get better? Like, when is it gonna get easier? And I never really know what to say because part of me wants to be like, I mean, when you die, like not to be intense, but like, and then it's not like it's over. Like you keep going. So it's like, it doesn't get easier, and astrology isn't here to make it easier, but it's a map to help you through the labyrinth of your karma so that you can understand your soul. And I dislike this word because it's watered down now, but it is a good word for it. Ascend, evolve, hence evolutionary astrology, which is maybe a good segue into my last point of the live, which is going to lead into my first interview on this topic, which is going to be with Timothy Halloran. Not sure if you guys are aware of him. He's an amazing evolutionary astrologer that I'm so happy to call my friend. I have such deep respect for this beautiful soul. He goes by Rasa Leela Healing on Instagram and YouTube. Check out his work. He is one of the real ones out there. He and I are going to be doing a live later this week about this topic. But this brings me to really drive home that if this live and this topic in general speaks to you, if it inspires you, if it lands and resonates for you, then evolutionary astrology is your area of astrology. And honestly, if you follow me and you're here, you probably already fucking know that because I talk about it a lot. But just in case you don't know, evolutionary astrology is the little sect of astrology that really looks at this practice as a way to understand your soul's evolution. It does not prioritize celebration of your strong points. That's in there. You can find it. You can look for that. But evolutionary astrology really pinpoints the part of your soul that needs to heal. And that's why it is so powerful. That's why my sessions with my clients are so intimate and transformative, because that's what we're working on. We're working on the trauma that is unintegrated. We're looking at unconscious patterns like addictions and these repeating cycles. We're looking at their root cause. I'm such a root cause person. Symptoms are one thing, behaviors are one thing, but I always want to know why. Like, where is this coming from? Why? We all have reasons for doing the things we do and being the way that we are. Very good reasons. And if we can understand why that is, even if they stem into past lifetimes, then we can heal through information and understanding. So evolutionary astrology is the type of astrology that does that. And so check out Jeffrey Wolf Green and his books, Pluto Series Volume 1 and 2, Life-Changing, the EA Glossary, Life-Changing, very dense book. Evolutionary astrology is a strong brew. It's a strong cup of tea. Jeffrey Wolf Green has very strong Scorpio placements. He's not for everyone. This is not for everyone. But it's the real deal. And, sun sign astrology is fun. There's value in sun sign astrology, but it's such a small glimpse into what is happening, that I just, yeah, for me, it's more about moving and doing the healing and using the chart for that. All right. I feel like that was everything I wanted to talk about today. Thanks for being here, guys. What time is it? Do I have time for any questions? If anybody has questions, I can do questions for like 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna head out. Oh, Angela's, thank you. She and I did a reading the other day. She's so fucking awesome. Well, Silly Steph, there will be, if I have anything to say about it. Someone's saying, I wish there was a physical school to learn this. I would really like to open a school one day. The monthly membership is kind of like the beta test of that grouping of souls. Yeah, we're building community over there. Laura, are you gonna come? Oh, I'm glad. What do you find are the top 3 placements for evolutionary astrology? What do you mean? Okay. If somebody wanted to buy a chart, as I've done the free ones through Cafe Astrology, would you recommend their paid one to start? Okay. So I'm not saying that they're not valuable, because they probably are. It's been a long time since I did one of those, and I think that it was beneficial to me in the beginning. If you want to use it as a study guide, I think that maybe it could be a good navigational tool for sure to like give you direction, because I think one of the things about astrology is that it's really overwhelming because you don't really know where to start. But if you want my honest opinion, it would be to book and invest in a one-on-one reading with an astrologer, and that might be annoying, but like, because there's just, it's like similar to AI, you know, there's nothing that can take the place of a real human soul. Obviously you want to resonate with the astrologer, so find someone that really resonates with you. But you know, we record the sessions, at least I do. You'll have it forever. Then it's your time to really ask the questions that you have. And yeah, or maybe do both, you know? So, Nick's Tarot Corner, you can reach out to him one-on-one. Nick and I are in the experimental phase of our business relationship. So far, it's going beautifully. I would love to expand with him. I actually left him a message about that earlier. We'll see. It's really up to him and what, where it all goes. But I would reach out to him for sure. What do you focus on when first looking at evolutionary astrology for an individual? Gosh. Well, with EA, Evolutionary Astrology, his books are going to focus on Mars and Venus placement and Pluto placement, along with the Pluto polarity point. So you'll see when you read his literature. If you go through and read we'll just go with Venus. If you go through his book and you read the Venus placement, Aries, not just yours, Aries all the way to Pisces, you are going to learn so much about the fucking zodiac. Like, it's going to change your entire perspective of astrology. And that's roughly what my course, Journey Through the 12 Archetypes is about, is using the evolutionary astrology model, which is basically that. So I would say, to answer your question, I guess Venus. I would not really buy a house during Mercury retrograde if you can help it. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Just know that every time Mercury goes retrograde, or especially if it goes retrograde in the same sign, there might be something about that decision that comes up for question. That doesn't even mean necessarily a bad thing, I guess, but there usually is like a question mark that comes up, I've noticed, if you sign contracts during a retrograde, because retrogrades are about review. So you'll likely review your choice. If you can push it off, I would. Mercury isn't going to go retrograde for a little while, though. How do you know it's going to fall in there? I guess it is kind of coming. I use Placidus. It's completely up to the person. Oh, Nick's in here. Cool. Nick, I was just talking about you. The book is Pluto series, volume 1 and 2. Volume 2 is the Mars and Venus placement. Do you recommend learning your own chart a bit before having a reading? That's a good question. I think it would be good, but I will say for me personally, because my teaching style because my reading style is a teaching style, to have a reading with me, you literally can walk in knowing nothing. But basic astrology would be good to know, just so you're not completely absorbing a foreign language for 2 hours, because that can just be a lot, like mentally. It can be a little exhausting. Hey. Oh. Well, you'll have to thank her for me. Alexander the Grateful. Okay, I think that is good for today, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around for this live. It's been awesome to talk to you about this. Look out for my live with Timothy later this week. We're going to dive deep into this topic. Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation. All right, guys, have a good day.